Evening, everyone. I'll call the regular town council meeting of Monday, September 16th to order at 5 p.m. We have the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions?
I have none, your worship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yep.
I would like to add something if I may.
The discussion about Apex, since their 30 days was this past weekend, and we don't have another meeting until after their contract would expire, so I'd like to discuss that and maybe.
Agenda?
It's not on the agenda. CAO Miller, that's
But it's time sensitive.
it might be. So I think it would have to be a closed session.
Yes.
So council would have to be willing to move that closed or to have it added.
We're just pulling the procedural bylaw.
Mhm.
Normally it would be a notice of. Normally it would be a notice of motion for it to be added to the agenda.
But according to the procedural bylaw, I'm just saying this to make sure I'm understanding it, but according to the procedural bylaw, a walk-on can be done if it is time sensitive and you have the majority of council. It's my understanding, but I could be wrong.
We're just checking the procedure bylaw.
So, the procedural bylaw does allow urgent, emergency, or time-sensitive matters. That cannot be left until the next meeting or otherwise requires immediate attention. If the status of the emergency is in question, then it has to be a 2/3 vote by council to add it.
Is this an emergency? These were all known dates and things ahead of time. It's not like something's come up as a surprise.
Okay, so maybe our way forward is, it's been presented to us that Councillor Carr would like to add Apex contract clause to the agenda. And I guess I would ask whether, do I need a motion? Or can I just pose the question? I'm posing the question. All those that would like to add this Apex matter to the closed part of the agenda. Yeah,
Just one question, if the contract is already public, would it have to be in closed session? Because I had a chat with Councillor Carr earlier asking me about the procedural bylaw. And if it's just possibly to extend or not extend a current contract, then that wouldn't have to be enclosed, would it? As you're not talking, well, the numbers of the contract are already public. So I don't think that would be a closed session conversation.
I'm waiting for advice here.
I would recommend that it be a closed session conversation, contract negotiations, and whether or not to continue, enter, terminate a contract should always be done in closed session.
But if it's not a
Decision.
negotiation, we're just, if council decides to extend or not to extend, there is no discussion about contract. That would be up to administration after the meeting.
I would disagree with that interpretation.
I just have to add that I won't have, our administration will have little to nothing to offer to the conversation today because we weren't prepared for this discussion.
Okay, so, at this point, Brad, do you want to say anything else to the thought process?
No, I'd just like to see it put to a vote and see what happens.
So the question is, as I understand it, Councillor Carr wishes to add the Apex clause, the contract, the clause in the Apex contract to the agenda, in particular with respect to the 30-day notice. That
Yes.
before we vote, I'm gonna declare pecuniary interest in the room.
Thank you. Okay, still not sure if I should ask for a motion, but since, I'll just ask for a motion. So perhaps Councillor Carr is moving that in addition to the agenda be the clause in the Apex contract with respect to the 30-day notice.
And whether we will be extending the contract or terminating it at the end of the term.
I think that I would argue that that is beyond what we can do now. We have a motion on the floor that said the Apex contract was for 3 months, at which time the council and administration would review the contract and
That's what I'm
then
looking
decide.
for. That's what I'm looking for, is
Yeah.
just discussion on that, yeah.
So I'm not understanding because the discussion is already to happen at the end of the 3 months.
No, it's too late at the end of the 3 months. If we don't have the discussion before, then the contract will end at 3 months. So we need to have discussion prior to that to decide whether we are going to extend it or let it terminate at the end of the 3 months.
Okay, so I'm going back to the first element then, the clause in the Apex contract that says something about the notice 30 days prior to the end of the 3 months. That was one issue. The second thing you're now bringing up has to do with a different element of that discussion, which I think I would break into 2 parts. So Councillor Carr moves that the 30-day extension clause of the Apex contract be added to the present agenda. That would be one thing. If you want to add something else, then I'd ask for another motion too.
Okay.
Okay, so the first motion is, I think I stated it. And Ms. Parsons, do you have that?
Move to add Apex Securities 30-day extension clause regarding the pilot program to the agenda. Was
That
that,
summarize your
was that
motion?
what,
That's kind of got the gist of it, yeah.
and I mean, under closed session item number 3, section 24. Should be advice with officials, which would include contract negotiation.
Okay, so it's under the close. Yes, Mr. Mudford?
Just to clarify, Madam Mayor, the
Mhm.
motion when we entered into this contract was for a 3-month trial period. So the language in the contract has that expiring as of October 15th. I'm not sure what's being referenced in terms of 30-day notice. There is language in the contract that either party can terminate by providing 30 days notice. But the contract that we have in place set to expire, and again, I believe the language subject to check is to the effect of at which point we'll do our review, our analysis, and proceed from there.
Okay, so you're indicating there's no 30-day clause in there to this effect.
Again, I can read the language from the contract that would clarify it.
Sure, please.
Notwithstanding the term, either party may terminate this agreement for any reason whatsoever in its discretion without cause on giving the other party 30 days prior written notice to the beginning of the next monthly term. So that's specific to termination. And the term is, the term of this agreement shall be for 3-month trial period commencing on the effective date hereof and spanning for 3 months until approximately October 15th, 2024, unless otherwise extended. Town of Peace River agrees to follow termination guidelines in accordance with section 11B of this agreement.
Hence the words on unless otherwise extended.
Councillor Ford.
Yeah, just to reiterate on Councillor Carr's comments is through all the discussions we've had, my understanding of the pilot project is at the end of the project or near the end of the project, we would discuss what's been going on, how the pilot project has been working and rather than it just terminating, that council could possibly extend and or go to request for proposal. Or even see if the town or administration could do the same work in-house. So rather than just ending the contract, have the discussion a month before the contract ends, whether, like I say, you could give administration that time to go to request for proposal. That way the contract just doesn't stop. And all the work that's already been done is lost.
So I think we're getting into the weeds on this idea. The other issue is we do not yet have more than 1 month's, information. Really?
Until tonight.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Well, I'm a bit of a loss here. I don't think that it's fair that, council would even try to make a decision tonight because we don't have enough information in front of us. This is being added to the agenda, so there's no time to think about it even. So somebody put forth a motion here because I'm not gonna do the reading.
Got a motion on the floor.
Okay, so the motion, as Ms. Parson has it again, is
To add Apex Securities 30-day extension clause regarding the pilot program to the agenda under closed session item number 3. Point section 24, advice from official.
Okay.
I have Councillor Carr as the mover.
Sure, thank you.
okay. All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? It is carried, so it is added to the agenda. Anything further? Okay, would someone please move that the council adopt the agenda as amended for this regular council meeting?
So moved.
Moved, Ford moves. All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you. Could someone invite Mr. Scammerhorn back in? Should have been here for that. Okay, we have the minutes of the August 26th regular council meeting in front of us. Did anybody notice any edits to those minutes? Someone care to put forth a motion? Deputy Mayor?
Move the council adopt the minutes of the August 26, 2024 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Okay, next on our agenda, we have the continuation of a public hearing. So it is with respect to bylaw number 2158, land use bylaw number 1891 amendment to do with the redistricting of the Shaftesbury settlement lot 38. So I would need someone to move that council reopen the public hearing with regard to the land use bylaw number 1891 amendment application to redistrict Shaftesbury settlement lot 38.
I'll have that motion.
I have to leave due to pecuniary interest.
Pecuniary?
It's not a pecuniary interest.
It is, since I own property there. Does that not apply?
Yes. It could.
It's a conflict, it's not.
Yeah. Well, would if property values drop?
Yes. So we're getting beyond it. So you've declared this, so that means you would leave.
Sayonara.
Gunnar?
Myself as well, I have a conflict, and I'm ready.
Okay, thank you.
I was able to just make that motion. Do I have to read it again?
No, I think we got the gist of it. So thank you for making the motion. So all those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Okay, so I hereby declare the statutory public hearing reopened at 5:15 p.m. And note that this hearing is held pursuant to section 7(8), 606, and 692 of the Municipal Government Act. We have Director of Infrastructure here as well on the virtual. So at the beginning of the first part of this hearing, we reviewed the purpose, the advertisement, and asked if any written submissions were received and not declared at the public hearing, that they be added to that agenda. So today, we're carrying on with the hearing. And I'm going to again ask that all persons giving oral presentations are clearly state their name, and that the presentations are to be brief and to the point. We all have heard several presentations in the past, so those are already in the record. So I would ask people to keep in mind if they've got some new information or new points to bring up, that would be the time during the hearing. So I will now call on the Development Officer, Director of Planning and Director of Infrastructure, actually, to state any information he wishes to bring forth at this point.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can you all hear me okay this evening?
Yes.
Okay. So the primary reason we recommended recessing was to allow some additional information to be submitted. We still hadn't heard at the last public hearing date from the MD of Peace, and they have submitted their review and comments, and they're attached to the report. Primarily, they have created their own district for resource removal, gravel pits, and recommended that some of the criteria that they've required in there be required if we do anything going forward on our end. We also received the previous letters from Ms. Walton. She forwarded all the comments on the last public hearings regarding gravel pits for the MD of Peace. And so there's some a copy of the wording from the form letters that were submitted. And it just in terms of reviewing the wording, I think it's relevant in terms of the letters themselves. They have some very clear statements in there, particularly at the end of each letter, it says, I oppose any further gravel pit development in the Shaftesbury Trail area that may intensify and prolong the gravel operations I live next to. It's pretty explicit. Initially, I think 116 letters were received from the Shaftesbury Estates area. Of those, about 62 are still property owners in the area. So their statement, unless they've changed their minds, are still valid. So that's 62 out of the 200 residents have already been on record stating that they're opposed to it. We've heard from a couple of residents in the last public hearing. And then one of the other pieces that I wanted to clarify was we had in the previous public hearing report included that in 2023 we had collected $51,000 from aggregate sales in terms of the levy. I just wanted to clarify that was over multiple years. It was a back payment from 2018 through 2023. So it's 5 years of gravel revenue, not one. That's pretty much all I've got for tonight.
Okay, does anybody have any questions of Mr. Fisher at this point? Okay, so I would now call on those in favor of the bylaw, if they would like to step forward and present their ideas. Doesn't look like anybody stepping forward, so I now call on those opposed to the bylaw to step forward. Again, if you're doing so, I please ask that you bring up some new topics, because we have heard some presentations before.
Jeff Harcourt. I have some new information.
Okay, thank you.
One question I did have for the development officer, though,
Is the microphone on?
It's kind of tucked behind the screen.
I can't-
Mr. Harcourt.
Somebody will fix it for you, no worries. Oh, there you go.
I had a question for the development officer, though. When he says that he received information from the MD of Peace, he did not say whether or not the MD of Peace was in favor or opposed to further gravel development along Shaftesbury Trail as within the town limits of Peace River. It says that they received a letter and a report, but it didn't give the conclusion of the report, and I didn't look online to see if it was accessible to the public and what their position was. It's my understanding they're opposed.
It's my understanding that, they have. Maybe this is something else. No, we've got, page 53, Municipal District of Peace, number 35. Section 4.51 is included in here, and it's, I guess it's a copy of their bylaw. Do you have that? Anyways, it's section 53, information requirements for aggregate resource extraction applications. And help me out, counselors here. Does it have a conclusion? No.
After the email, there's a portion from.
Sorry, your worship, I was just looking at the documentation that was submitted. The document that we have received is an email from their development officer at MD of Peace or municipal clerk. There's a concern in regards to the quality of life for residences being impacted nearby. And they've attached the part of their bylaw that has recommendations for gravel pit development. That's the extent of the feedback we received, Mr. Harcourt.
So they did not, say, yes, we're in favor, no, we're not in favor of this. They provided information as to how they would look at, an application for aggregate resource extraction in their MD, essentially.
And they do have a concern for nearby residences, but it is not a clear in favor or not in favor.
Okay, so I guess we received the. Yeah, so we've got a good morning, Alicia. Council asked me to respond to you with these concerns in regards to the potential gravel extraction. And this comes from info. So anyways, the concern is for the quality of life of the residents being impacted with the negative noises as a result from the gravel. I've attached part of our LUB that outlines information and requirements for aggregate resource extraction applications, and it's signed by Diana Butts, municipal clerk. So there is, Mr. Harcourt, that little memo. The second sentence probably pertains to some of what you were maybe asking for, that the concern is about the quality of the residents being impacted with the negative noises.
It was actually my understanding that the MD of Peace indicated that they were opposed to any gravel resource extraction along Shaftesbury Trail. And this application deals with a bylaw rezoning for the purposes of gravel extraction along Shaftesbury Trail. Although Shaftesbury Trail starts in Peace River. Well, maybe it doesn't start in Peace River, but it extends into the MD of Peace.
Right. Okay, so at this point in time, that's all the information we have in front of us from the MD of Peace.
So since the last meeting, there's some additional points that I just wanted to raise. The development officer indicated at the last meeting that the property has been zoned R1 residential since 2003 or 2005. That information was indefinite as to which year it was. So I would just want to comment that that means if the property's been running as a gravel pit since 2003 or 2005, that it has been doing so in opposition to the bylaws in place. Second thing is that in the event the property was rezoned to R1 residential in 2003 or 2005, the company and or the owner of the land would have received notice of that rezoning application and would have had the ability to object to that rezoning at that time. Since the rezoning occurred, either an objection was not made or it was not found to be valid. The third point is that people have been talking about grandfathered in, that people are grandfathered in, that since they used to do something, they should be able to do it now. This grandfathered in clause, I think, is quite often misunderstood. Essentially, if something is grandfathered in, that doesn't mean just because you used to be able to do something, you get to do it now. I sold a house in 2012. That doesn't mean I get to go in there and make myself a sandwich like I used to. This has to be in writing, registered on the land at the time of the rezoning application. There's nothing in the bylaws, and I looked, that says anything to the point that since they used to run a gravel pit there, now that it's zoned residential, that they get to continue running a gravel pit there. The proposed wording would be something to the effect that notwithstanding that it's been rezoned to R1 residential, the company gets to keep maintaining a gravel pit. That is not contained anywhere in the bylaw. The last point I'd like to bring up is the notice to the public. The notice to the public is in relation to bylaw rezoning for the purposes of allowing a gravel pit. Now, 95% of the notice is in relation to bylaw rezoning. It doesn't say, there's one line in there, I believe, that says that the purpose of the rezoning is to allow the development of operation of gravel pit. I submit that the general public who receives a notice that there's a rezoning application don't know much about rezoning applications. But if the notice to the general public comes out and says, we're dealing with an application to reopen or reoperate or to make sure that we can run a gravel pit so close to a residential property, I think the response would be different than if you get an almost generic application to rezone. The notice does not provide the impacts or explain the effects of a direct control rezoning application. Those are my additional comments. Thank you for the time. Unless people had questions for me.
Thank you. So does anyone have questions at this point in time? Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Harcourt. And added those information items to the record. Is there anyone else who would like to speak opposed to the bylaw? Okay, I will now call on any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. One's coming forward. Okay, at this point in time, I can take a concluding statement from those who have made presentations. Mr. Fisher, any concluding statement?
Hi, Your Worship. I'd like to address one or two points from Mr. Harcourt there. First of all, the gravel pit was operating, as far as I can tell, into the 80s. So the change in 2002, it would have been operating prior as a gravel pit. Now, it's not included in our bylaw, but in the Municipal Government Act, there is actually wording around existing non-conforming. So what happens is if you have a property that is got a development permit and has been operating in a certain way because it was approved, and it becomes not permitted in a new land use bylaw, it can continue operations as an existing non-conforming property. And if those operations cease for a significant amount of time, or you apply with a new property that's zoned, or with a new application for that property for those operations, you're not permitted to do it going forward after that bylaw change. But because you were given permission in the past, you are generally allowed to continue operating that same use under the MGA. Those are the two big ones, I think, that I wanted to touch base on. My recommendation would be to close the hearing if we're done final submissions, and reschedule a second reading for a future meeting.
Thank you. Counselors, do you have any questions of Mr. Fisher?
Not a question, but I do have a comment in regards to the empty a peace letter. Just so that former council is aware, I was a member of the gravel pit committee for the town of Peace River, and represented the town of Peace River on that committee when, prior to the MD of Peace changing their land use bylaw to what they currently had. My understanding of this letter is that the MD of Peace did change their land use bylaw. That's apparently why they've submitted that portion of the land use bylaw, because of the concern that they had for their residents at that point in time. Once that land use bylaw was changed in the MD, the committee that I was on became no longer, and that committee no longer exists. But the MD of Peace, to my understanding, did change their land use bylaw specifically to the concerns of that stated in the second sentence in their letter.
Thank you. Counselors, any other questions? Okay, and at this point, seeing that all presentations have been made, I will now declare the public hearing closed at 5:32. And the intent would then be that our possible second reading of the bylaw would come up at next council meeting. Okay, so in October, the first regular council meeting. Do you know the date of that?
October 15th.
On October 15th.
That's a Tuesday, just for clarification, because the Monday is a holiday.
Okay, so we would possibly do, or we consider second reading there, and depending on how council goes forth at that point, either do second reading or not, and then decide.
And just,
Please,
this is just for the redistricting of the land.
Yes.
There would be development permit applications and everything
Yeah.
after that. This is simply to redistrict the land.
right. Okay, so this is simply, and I shouldn't say simply, this is the land use bylaw amendment part of things is what we're talking about, right?
Right.
Okay, so thank you, and thank you, presenters, for coming forward as well. Our next topic is a presentation from Apex Security, and we have Alan Rickert, Manager Business of Leadership and Development, coming forward. And our two counselors have rejoined us in their council role. So please just come, and if you wouldn't mind saying your names, though, so everyone.
Good afternoon, your worship, and members of the council. I'm Alan Gukert, Business Development Manager with Apex.
I'm Remy Nault, the Director for the Public Security Unit, Apex Security.
We're here to provide you an overview of the public security unit's activities and achievements in Peace River over the past 2 months. If I may proceed.
Yes, yes.
Our mission has been to enhance community safety and security, and I'm excited to share the programs, progress that we've made and the impact that we had on the community.
I'm just gonna clarify thing here. So in our agenda, it had,
Oh, PowerPoint.
yeah, Apex Security Month 1 presentation, and you're doing 2 months? Is
No.
that-
Well, we're just gonna talk briefly about our achievements and that. We're gonna highlight some of the achievements because it is 2 months today. And the report will be coming out, as I was saying here shortly, with the 2 months, but it's not available today because yesterday was the 2 month period, so we're still just fine tuning that, so.
Should be out tonight.
Okay, thank you.
And also, if
Yeah.
you need to get into your
Oh,
PowerPoint,
okay.
it's on.
We just want to start off with, we're gonna be doing some stats, some daily reports, just in some concerns there, and messages from the public, coordination with emergency services, a few photos and a conclusion. And we're gonna try and keep this under 15 minutes, so we're gonna go through this pretty quick here. Just enhanced reporting communication with daily reports. We've made significant improvements to our daily reporting process. Our new reporting structure is designed to provide more accurate and detailed insights to our operations. This includes comprehensive incident descriptions and outcomes. By refining our reports, we aim to ensure that they are not only detailed, but also accessible for better tracking and evaluation. Our monthly stats, Remy will go into those.
Monthly stats, in addition to daily reports, we've been providing detailed monthly statistics to the town. These reports include specific data points such as the number of incidents handled, types of occurrences, and response metrics. This breakdown helps us and the town understand the PSU's effectiveness and to identify areas for improvement. So because we're just talking about the first month, I'll go over. So in July, we had 99 encampment reports. And
Yeah, we can do that.
and then this demonstrates clear, well, no, we can't do this because we're only talking about this first month. Yeah, so we'll have to go to this one.
Do you guys, Your Worship, do you mind if we just touch on the basis of our stats that we kind of accumulated for today?
Sure, go ahead.
All right.
Okay, so in July, we had 99 encampment encounters to report. In August, there was 46 encampment encounters to report, and in September, we've had 24 up to now. This demonstrates a clear downward trend in the overall encampment over the past 2 months, highlighting our effectiveness. However, with the colder weather approaching, we anticipate a surge in new encampment activity, which will require a continuous presence from the PSU to manage effectively.
This last month, from August 15th to September 15th, we'll be providing this report shortly, as we stated. And the PSU responded to 44 occurrences with focus on removal and cleanup. Proactive measures were taken to monitor areas frequently affected. We had 33 occurrences, mostly involving alcohol consumption and unauthorized gatherings. 42 occurrences involving monitoring and intervention. 33 occurrences with timely response to medical emergencies and assistance required. 686 occurrences demonstrating a consistent and extensive presence in various areas to ensure community safety, which includes observation and proactive measures. 63 reports addressed based on community calls for service. Those are the calls we received from the community. So those calls are definitely going up as there's more knowledge and information out there, what we're doing and how we're doing it from the public. So those calls, we had 63 this last month, including noise and suspicious activity. PSU has attended many town events such as Wheels in the Park, Parade of Programs events, summer fun camps, outdoor concert, fresh air cinema, football games and hockey games where the PSU has attended and provided security and presence in those. They've also helped in the security for weddings at the Riverfront Park and attended public library on many occasions along with the Baytech Center. We do at least 4 to 5 foot patrols a day and bike patrols on days where weather is permitting. Collaboration with local agencies. With the fire department on the very first day of the PSU's inception, we arrived to support the fire department during the encampment fire. Shortly after this, we also assisted a mobile home fire with traffic control. These early incidents were pivotal in establishing our role in emergency response and working with them, and highlighted the importance of our ongoing collaboration with local fire services. RCMP, our relationship with the RCMP has been a cornerstone of our efforts. We've collaborated on numerous occasions, and I'd like to highlight our work with Sergeant Lacey Blair, the acting detachment commander for Peace River. Sergeant Blair has played a crucial role in facilitating effective communication and coordination between the PSU and the RCMP. Additionally, we've been assigned a weekly liaison, Constable Arthur Sunday, to further strengthen our partnership with the RCMP. During one of the meetings with Sergeant Blair, she stated that we have alleviated some of the lower end calls, that we complement each other well, and that we are filling the gap for them. Some of the comments from the RCMP. AHS, we have reached out to AHS services to explore potential collaboration. Although we are advised that collaboration is not feasible at this time of the town, we remain hopeful for future opportunities. We believe that a partnership with AHS could enhance our service deliveries and support health-related emergencies more effectively in such cases as holdbacks. And we understand that that's under the pilot project and the direction we were given on that, which is what we're looking at. So, bylaw officer, a collaboration with the town's bylaw officer, Michael Austin, has been also excellent. This partnership has been instrumental in addressing local concerns and ensuring that operations are in harmony with bylaw regulations. The bylaw officer's insights and cooperation have helped us effectively manage and resolve various issues within the community.
So innovative security measures. So we've added e-bikes to enhance our visibility and patrol efficiency. We introduced e-bikes into our operations about 3 weeks ago or so. These bikes allow us to cover more ground and patrol walkways, parkways, close down campsites more effectively. We've carefully mapped out, excuse me, our bikes patrols on all trails, and we've shared that with the town daily, helping us in tracking and coordinating these patrols. This initiative has shown positive results in terms of increased visibility. Library cameras. We've upgraded the library security system by placing its cameras under active monitoring to enhance. This enhancement aims to provide a safer environment for library patrons and to ensure prompt response to any incidents. Foot patrols. Our commitment to community engagement is further demonstrated through our regular foot patrols downtown and along walkways and paths. These patrols allow us to interact directly with community members, address concerns in real time, and enhance our presence in the key areas of the town. This hands-on approach helps us stay connected with the community and ensures that we are accessible and responsive to their needs. We've added a light bar, an amber light bar to the PSU vehicle for safety and security reasons. We've partnered with the RCMP at our presence at schools during school drop-off and pickup to ensuring visibility during peak hours by monitoring crosswalks, slowing traffic, and activating our amber lights. We remind the public to drive cautiously in school zones. This effort helps reduce speeds, enhance safety for students, parents, and staff, reinforcing our commitment to a safer community.
Next on here is community engagement and feedback. We've had some positive feedback. We received a lot of positive feedback from community members and business owners reflecting the impact of our efforts in improving safety and security. Hearing firsthand about the difference we are making has reinforced the importance of our work. This feedback is not just encouraging and motivates us to continue striving for excellence. Constructive criticism, while we've also received some negative feedback, as we all know on the social medias and that, we view it as a valuable learning opportunity. We use this feedback to refine our approach and make necessary adjustments. For instance, we have addressed specific concerns raised by the community to improve our services. Response times, you understand that timely response are crucial. Although our single unit limits our ability to be in multiple locations at once. We are pleased with our response time so far and continually working to improve them. Information required when calling to ensure we can respond effectively. I clarified the information needed when calling us. We've asked that they provide name, contact number, location, and a brief description of the situation. Other information may be requested to help determine the priority to call and help the PSU prior to arriving. We place those on those little business cards in the back, and we'll be distributing them out in a while here. Phone service interruptions. We have experienced occasional interruptions in our phone service. We're actively working to resolve these issues to ensure reliable communication. They were working on the phones one day at our office in Grand Prairie. Those phone lines were off and on during that day, and there was some inconvenience caused. I think most of the calls that, there was only one or two that at the time of the inconvenience were put on hold, and we were made aware of that. And we made every effort that day to resolve those issues. Follow-up with businesses, we recognize the need for better follow-up with businesses after incidents, and we're enhancing our process to ensure timely updates and effective communication with business owners. And clarity on our role in educating the public. We are committed to improving clarity with our role and services. We have distributed business cards, rack cards, used social media to educate the public on what we handle directly and what should be directed to the RCMP. And costs, the monthly breakdown for covering 24 hours a day, 7 days a week equals to 720 hours a month, equating to $111.11 per hour, if you do the math on the calculations. This rate includes 2 dedicated staff members, a vehicle, gas, dispatch service equipment, insurance, training, and other essential expenses. Having 2 staff members on duties ensures enhanced safety when dealing with individuals who may be under the influence, experiencing mental health issues, or dealing with other challenges, providing a safer and more effective response for the community. We appreciate the feedback we've received and are dedicated to working together with the community to continuously improve our services. Our input helps us refine our operations and better serve everyone. Engagement. We've had town meetings with some of the folks in this room. We've had several productive meetings with the town where we received guidance and constructive criticism. This feedback has been crucial in shaping our operations, ensuring that we meet the town's expectations. We've made adjustments based on this input to enhance our effectiveness in line with the town's needs. Community impact. We have seen and heard from the community the difference our efforts are making. This positive response underscores the importance of our work and drives us to continue to support all facets of the town. From business to nonprofit organizations and even through volunteer work by our staff, we are committed to contributing positively to Peace River. Our interactions with various community sectors have been overwhelmingly positive, reinforcing our belief in the value of our presence and efforts. We are working with some of the banned individuals. The PSU has identified gaps in trespass and ban notifications by businesses, resulting in enforcement challenges. We see a growing need to assist businesses in creating, using and properly filling banned notices for individuals they wish to keep off their premises for an extended period. This will help ensure these bans can be effectively enforced, and we are currently working on this to help these businesses. Although the agent program is not yet approved by the town administration, we believe it's essential for unlocking the PSU's full potential and enhancing community safety. Business owners have expressed strong interest and made numerous requests about how we can better support them on their properties. Implementing this program will enable us to fully demonstrate the value we can offer and should be considered for future implementation. Looking ahead. Looking forward, the PSU remains committed to enhancing public safety in Peace River. We will continue to build strong partnerships with local agencies, implement innovative solutions, and engage with the community to ensure we are meeting their needs effectively. Our focus will be on maintaining the high standards of service and addressing any challenges that arise. In conclusion, although we have only been operational for 2 months, which is, it seems like a little longer than that, but it's only 2 months. The impact of the public security unit has been significant. We have added value to the town, increased safety for its residents, we feel, and provided reassurance to businesses. The positive feedback we received and the tangible improvements in community security highlight the effectiveness of our efforts. We want to express our sincere gratitude to the town of Peace River for allowing us the opportunity to showcase our capabilities. We also wish to thank the community for the warm and positive interaction we've experienced. The hand waves, personal thanks, and support on the media platforms has been incredibly uplifting. We truly wish we could share all these heartfelt moments with you as they affirm the difference we are making. As we look to the future, imagine the continued growth and enhancement that could be achieved over the course of a year or two. The potential or even greater impacts is immense, and we are committed to realizing that potential. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So it's been quite noticeable in our downtown area in particular that some things
You have to shut your mic off.
that sometimes help,
Sorry.
sometimes not. Anyways, there's been a noticeable difference, and we too have heard the positive comments. As a town, it is a service level that is going to require some discussion. It all comes down to taxes and fees, sort of things, in many ways. And we can't always offer totally what we would like to. So anyway, so that would be upcoming discussions. But thank you for your report, and thank you for the work too. So councilors, questions? Councilor Carr?
In your report, you indicated with winter coming, we can expect an increase in encampments?
Well, an increase in people trying to set up structures. Yeah, you know, because summertime, summer months, people are falling asleep, you know, wherever they can. It doesn't really matter. But as it gets colder, they're starting to go into the woods a little bit more and bringing, you know, items to build shelters with. And so you'll see an increase in that, you know, throughout the colder months. So you'll see, we've seen a downward trend in the last 2 months of encampments, and you'll probably see a small uptick in us finding new encampments through October at least. And then, you know, and then once again, it will go down, you know. The goal is to try to have that downward trend.
Yeah.
And that's our experience from Grand Prairie, in dealing with that 19 months that we had there and watching the trends there.
Councilors, Councilor Forge?
And my question was more directly related to call volume with the RCMP, which I don't think you can answer. However, our staff sergeant's sitting in the background, so just to give her a heads up that those questions will be asked at our RCMP advisory meeting on Wednesday.
Can I answer to that?
Yes.
Just in those call volumes, we did have a discussion with the RCMP. And at this time, they're saying that their call volumes are kind of staying the same, and I don't know what she's gonna report on that. But that was our discussion last week. In our interpretation of that, that's a positive thing, because we've had 63 calls from the public on different matters that they may have called or not called the RCMP. And just in saying that their call volumes are staying the same is a kind of a description in regards to that we're looking after some of the lower level, those calls that people may not make to the RCMP because they're deciding on it, are actually coming to us. So you may or may not see a rise or a decrease in those volume calls to the RCMP. But some of those experiences, when we call them for certain instances, may contribute to some of those calls. So it's kind of they go down a bit in our regards. We're thinking, I don't know what he's going to report on, but our look at is that those call volumes may be the same in regards to that people are reporting to us the lower end that may or may not go to the RCMP at that time. So.
Thank you. Councilor Boychuk?
I think you guys are doing a wonderful job out there, and my question is around those experiencing houselessness and sleeping on our streets. Do you guys have a rough number of how many are not actually utilizing the shelter, and maybe why they would not be utilizing the shelter?
Why they're not?
Why they're not, they give all kinds of reasons. You know, the shelter's too loud. Yesterday it was the shelter stinks. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons. As for a number on how many, that's not something I think we're tracking really. You know, we're tracking, you know, individuals that we're removing from places, people, you know, that we're finding encampments. But as far as accessing services or not, no. However, we are distributing the resource pamphlet that was given to us to hand out for the services available in town. Anytime we go to an encampment, we talk to somebody. You know, the last time we had a gentleman who needed medical attention a couple days ago. He fell, hit his head. He's trying to get back to Valley View. And so while he was in the ambulance before they took him, I gave him one of those pamphlets to hopefully access some sort of service that could get him back home. So that's a tough one to track on that specific.
Yeah, whether they tell us that they are going there or not after we deal with them.
Yeah.
And if they do show up, or if they're there and then come back out. So,
but we're trying to motivate them to use the shelter. That is where they, you know, where someone belongs. It's the safest place for them. And it gives them the best access to getting those services, to get them back home or into housing or mental supports or, you know, medical supports even, you know, so.
I think some of the numbers too, Counselor Wojcik, is that when we say that the encampments are going down, we're hoping that that's a trend that they are using those resources. Because those encampment, contacts that we're having are declining again, and hopefully they are going there. Obviously, like we said, they might go up a little bit in the winter here for the first month, back up again, but, from 99, times, and that was actually, if you looked at the stats, that first month, that was only 16 days. Where we dealt 99 occurrences that were reported on encampments. So as they decrease down, I think that number should be indicating that they might be reusing some of those resources.
Thank you. Any further questions, counselors? Counselor?
That number of 99, that's separate encampments that you addressed?
No, that's just occurrences that were reported, whether they went back, whether it's continuation. 99 reports of that had the encampment word in regards to that.
So if to add to that, if we do have an interactive encampment map. I finally got an email to be able to give to you guys with the login information that's because at one of our meetings, somebody had to open a separate Gmail account, and there was just a lot of things moving around in order to access that map. And so on that map, we've traced every encampment we've had. We have whether they're active, inactive, suspected, and cleaned up. So if you click on any of the icons, and we update it daily, you know, we just switched a couple of the icons to a yellow. So yellow means cleaned up, red would be inactive, green would be active, and then blue is suspected. And so as I'll hand that off to Barb perhaps and.
Like to do I think about page 5 of the review that we gave you last month, it shows the encampment map on there. That's what he's referring to.
Yeah, so there's a kind of a screenshot of it, and so on that map, you can actually click on an icon. It'll bring up a picture of how we found the encampment, and then depending on where it is on the icon list, you can see before and after. And then hopefully, our goal is to aim to keep them yellow, but last little bit, we've noticed a little bit more activity back in some of the old encampments. And then this week, we've gone back in and switched them back to yellow because we've been able to get people out of there, so.
And that encampment map's not for general public use or viewing.
Yeah.
It'll just be made available to the administration here and whoever they deem fit for that, and we'll share that information and have access to view those encampments and where they are and stuff. And it's basically for security and safety reasons to have those encampments listed on there if our guys are responding to a situation and they need help or assistance, that we have a little bit better idea exactly where they are and where they're located. And if they require assistance from other services, that we can get it there more precisely and more quickly if needed.
I also have a question about the 99 encampments, but thank you for that. A second question about the encampments is, are you noticing, like you said, some of them are going back to the old encampments? So were they kind of just moving outwards or anything like that, or?
Well, I mean, I think some of them are moving away from town property, that I've heard some of them move into the shelter space because they don't like, you know, you guys keep showing up where we're set up. The one yesterday, how do you keep finding them? Well, I mean, yesterday they lit a fire and there was a plume of smoke going up, so it was pretty easy to find. Yeah, some of them are going back to the old spaces because they're cleared out. You know, it's like a campground. You go down by the Buckwoods insurance there, and you go down there and you've got multiple spaces cleared out. So it makes it, you know, are you gonna go and put one in there, or you know, somewhere where you have to, you know, cut down more trees and bushes? So it's easy. So that's why we keep going in every week. We patrol. You know, they did some tree clearing along the embankment recently, and that makes it a lot easier to spot, say, on our bike patrols. We can see people down there, which also increases the safety for people having to go down. And yeah, so I think it's a mix, some of them are gonna resist accessing services more often. But I think we've pushed some of them away, and some of them, are getting into the shelters more, I mean, I can't confirm because I don't have their statistics and their numbers, so I can't speak for them, but we're trying.
And have you noticed anything in particular with respect to, vagrancy or people sleeping on steps or being on steps to businesses that concerns the business? Is there any change in that aspect of things?
We have noticed, at first, it was, a little bit of a resistance, but once you educate people, to the town's bylaws, against camping, loitering, now it seems, that we're getting a lot less occurrences of them doing that. There's still always a few that like to hang out, just down the street here on some convenient, benches that aren't really benches, but, it's been getting better, I think.
I think the, just driving around town and everybody noticing, it's a big difference out there too, so. And, I think that just the constant, presence in that is making a big difference. As soon as they see an Apex vehicle, whether it's mine and I'm not even doing anything, they're scattering and starting to walk away, and so. And I think some of the gestures that we're getting, may not be the best gestures, but I think from them, it's indicating that we might be doing our job out there, so.
But we do have to be careful that we look at the actions and make sure we're, moving people along when they're not behaving properly, not just because we don't like the way they look. I just need to be clear on that,
Okay, well, great.
Last question.
Oh, okay.
Last question from us. So with your comment on the green encampments, which are cleaned up.
No, the yellow.
Green is active?
Green, I believe, is active, yeah.
Okay. So let's go to the yellow, and so the ones that are cleaned up, the ones that are vacated. So on your patrols, let's say in the last 3 weeks, last month.
Yeah.
How often are your teams going into those encampments and having to re-clear people out because they're trying to set up again? Is it quite often? Is it not often?
I would say, it's not very often, but it's been happening. I remember coming back for this week and I pulled up the encampment map, and I was so happy because we had, 20 icons that were yellow, and I like seeing yellow on that map. And I looked and I'm like, where did all the yellow go? There was, some spots that changed. So this last week we went in and we switched them back. And so I'd say it is happening. But once again, with the constant presence, we're able to get them cleared out. And I will say they're not getting established in the same way as they were. When we cleaned up that Buckholz encampment and that dumpster and the amount of stuff we took out of there's, getting a suitcase or maybe a tarp and a tent, something we can actually manage ourselves at getting rid of. Where that encampment, when we first got here, there was no way. That was, multiple people, spending hours, lugging stuff up that embankment. I mean, we had, motors, shopping carts. It took 4 of us to carry one of the benches that they were using to break down bike parts in there. So those kind of reestablishment isn't happening. What's happening is, people going in for the night and we can maybe start setting up here. So, I think it's having a good effect on not reestablishing the more permanent encampments and attracting the more criminal element.
And my reason for asking that question is simply because of Councillor Carr's comment right at the very beginning of the meeting. I'm trying to determine what happens if the contract ceases, like how quickly could this get out of hand again?
Well, have you been to Grand Prairie lately?
No. Well, I was there for work, but I didn't go downtown.
Well, I go back because I live there, and I drive along places that we had cleaned up in a year and 9 months. And to say the least, I'm shocked at what I'm seeing. And I'm shocked at how fast it came back. It's not safe to walk in the park anymore. I'm getting comments from friends of mine. I'm getting comments from friends, that take their kids to the music, place there, so, you know, I mean, I can't say for sure what Peace River would be like, but I know how I feel when I go back home. And I see, you know, the work we put in there and the blood, sweat and tears that we, you know, at doing it, and how, you know, near the end of that program, I was not seeing, we would drive around patrolling and having a few engagements here and there. People would learn, you can't, you know, you can't be at these certain places you know, you can't just smoke fentanyl at the Circle K, that's not allowed. And, you know, when I drive back home, I'm shocked every time, you know, and that's from a personal perspective, you know.
Any concluding remarks?
No.
Good.
Thank you for your time, and we're trying to do the best we can out there with the resources we have, and we appreciate you guys' opportunity to give us that.
Beautiful town.
Agreed. Thank you for your presentation and information. Okay, our next presentation is Peace River RCMP, their first quarter report, and quarter one is from April to June of 2024. So welcome Staff Sergeant Lacey Blair.
Everywhere I go. No, for the new council.
Armless chair.
Okay, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Lacey Blair. I apologize for my voice. My kids started school last week and they brought home a glorious cold for me to get, so I'm just getting over it. I've been a member with the RCMP for over 16 years. I worked in Valley View, did 10 years in Fort McMurray. I've been in Fairview for the last year and a half, and I've been in Peace River since really the beginning of June. I'm seconded over here as the acting detachment commander until a permanent replacement is found. Hoping that's me in the future, but that's for bosses to decide. So I'm here to talk about the quarter one reports. So that's April 1st to the end of June, just to kind of touch on some staffing things regarding the detachment. First few months of the fiscal year, the community liaison position was vacant. It was folded to the front floor. That position is now filled by Arthur Sunday, and he took that position July 1st. Moving forward, our general investigation section was folded to the front floor as well, just regarding staffing shortages that were happening in the Peace River detachment. We are now moving people back into that unit. They are plainclothes, hoping to help us with not frontline calls, but other calls for service that we received. So we're getting that unit back up and fully staffed. Staff Sergeant Dave Brown, as most of you know, he's been here his entire career. He's not leaving Peace River. He's still here. So luckily I can go knock on his door in the detachment and ask him all the questions about Peace River and the things regarding the detachment here. So he's a great resource to have. He's just moved on to a new role, but he's still active within the detachment. So with regarding the first quarter, I believe the crime stats were sent out to everybody. A couple things of note, mental health calls. The big social issue that's happening. It's not just a Peace River issue, it's a countrywide issue that we're experiencing. They still remain quite high. When we do receive mental health calls, they are very time consuming for our officers regarding if people have to go and see a doctor, they're threatening self-harm or to harm others. We do have to transport them to Grand Prairie, as Peace River does not have the hospital here to accommodate them, so they are transported to Grand Prairie. We have seen an uptick in 911 hang-up calls. I know most people look at those as kind of a nuisance call. They are, but we still have to track down the individual to make sure that they're okay. So it's not just that we get a 911 hang-up call and we kind of leave it. We actually have to find the people and speak with them in person to make sure that they are okay and they do not need our assistance. Sometimes those can be quite time consuming as well. We're still getting the false alarms. That's alarms at businesses, kind of comes and goes. Spousal abuse, unfortunately, that kind of stays stagnant. We do find that in the summer, moving from winter into the springtime, certain calls go down, certain calls go up, and then when we move into the fall and everybody goes back inside because it gets chilly outside, other calls will go up and some will go down. So that's kind of what happens there, especially when it comes to spousal domestic violence calls. Other calls that we've had that are still, unfortunately quite high, assaults within the town of Peace River, criminal harassment and uttering threats. Some other things of note is our break and enters are up. We have noticed an uptick in those, again, coming out of the winter into the spring. People generally get out and about and they're not cooped up inside because it's not -40 out anymore, so we do see an uptick in those generally in the springtime. Moving into the fall, and in the winter, you'll kind of see those stats go down. Same with the mischief calls, which that encompasses any type of spray painting damages that's happening things downtown. I've been here for a couple months now, so I've been super engaged with the community. I know I haven't been out to meet this council yet. I've been kind of trying to immerse myself into what's been happening in Peace River and kind of engage with the community and be out there. Arthur Sunday, as most of you probably know, is a huge resource that we have within the town of Peace River here. And I can't speak highly enough about him and what he's been doing in the community, especially regarding the youth. He's a great asset that we have that I'm hoping that he'll stick around forever. So moving forward, I'm doing everything that I can to support Arthur and engaging the youth within the community and bringing people on board with supporting him with that. And that's pretty much all I have. Oh, I generally keep it short and sweet, and plus I can't really talk a whole lot.
Well, thank you. I know one of the concerns has been that, or the complaints, I don't know, comments we've heard is that something happens, an officer goes to the business and there is no resulting, I don't know, charge or something. Either the business doesn't want to proceed or the officer doesn't think there's enough or something. Can you just speak to that general issue?
Yeah, I sure can. So it's kind of a combination of things. If we go to a business and the business, let's say their front door was broken and somebody went in and let's say stole a chocolate bar. We go to the business and we speak to the business owner and they don't want to proceed with charges or go through court. We can't move forward with that. That's over and done with, that they don't want to go forward. With regards to us pressing charges, that has nothing to do with our opinions and stuff, and the members shouldn't be saying that. It should be up to the business owner on the person who's been the victim of a crime. Us moving forward, we will process everything and it will go to the courts. It's more of an education piece on the members' part. Unfortunately, it is a junior detachment with members who have lots to learn, and that's just something that I need to educate my members a little further on.
But so from the store owner or whoever the one that might be pressing the charges, it's really, why is it good to press the charge if you don't think it's going anywhere?
Regardless of that, if we have an individual who breaks into this store and we don't do anything, and then breaks into this store and nobody wants anything charges done, and breaks into a third store and that store owner's like, you know what, I want to press charges, for sure. We'll move that forward to the courts. The courts will only recognize that as one charge. They won't actually see the other instances that this person has committed those crimes. So we encourage business owners and people, victims of things like that, to actually move forward with charges. So then when we go to the courts, we can present to them a full case of this individual has caused this many files, has broken into this many places, and this many charges have been laid. Therefore, they might actually get some jail time. As opposed to just the one instance, we'd like to build everything up so then they actually could get some jail time. And then it takes them out of the community for however long the courts decide.
Yeah, which is another whole
Yeah.
discussion, I guess. Councilors, you have a question? Councilor Ford?
Just in regards to the report itself, this is a regional report, not specific to the municipal boundaries of Peace River, am I correct?
This one is specific to the municipal boundaries of
Oh,
Peace
okay.
River.
And just so that council is aware, I know I've mentioned it to a couple already, but speaking about Constable Sunday being the chair of the 2025 ACCPA conference, Constable Arthur Sunday has been invited to present at our conference in 2025 with his work that he does with kids and crime.
You, Councilor Boychuk?
Two quick questions. These previous years, is that quarter to quarter, or is that the whole total for that year versus this quarter?
That'll be the quarter for that year, kind of compared to this year.
Okay, good. And then second, I see your Form 10s have gone down, yet your mental health calls have gone up. What act are you guys transporting people under now then, if not Form 10?
It would be under the Form 10. It's just kind of a scoring issue that we have that we're trying to correct within our system of our scoring.
Councillor Carr?
Are you back to full staff at this detachment?
No, we still have some soft vacancies due to some medical issues that we are beyond our control and paternity, maternity leave. We are getting there. We're in a lot better shape than where we were. Not fully staffed yet, no.
Okay. Couple other questions I had for you. Do you guys still do the night checks on businesses? Where they would sign their card, check the doors, that kind of thing?
Not to my knowledge, but I'll make a note and see if we can get that back up and running.
Yeah, that'd be great. Actually, it helps with, makes the business owners happy and makes people realize they're out and about doing their checks. What else was I gonna ask? Oh yeah, I was gonna ask, if we choose not to extend Apex's contract, will there be more, like, will you guys kind of step up the patrols in town, or is there a plan for dealing with what will likely be an increase in, well, everything we don't want to see?
I actually had that conversation with Barb there last week. We are making a plan and we are having a plan in the event that the town decides to not move forward with it. That's about as much as I worked in Fort McMurray. I know the challenges of what happens, especially when the security is removed. So I am making a plan, working with the members to get more activity downtown.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this point? So, in terms of, our, I don't know, communication to the public then, one of the things we should carry on doing is encouraging people to, report and want somebody to be charged if they've, I don't know, committed a property crime on their property, that sort of thing. That would be important in terms of setting up a history, I guess.
Yes, it'd be super helpful. I'm actually gonna send some information to Kayla, which I forgot last week, but with regards to, people don't always have to call in to us to report crime. There are other avenues that the RCMP has opened up now for online reporting and different things. So I'll send it to Kayla and then she can maybe get that posted on the town's website.
Okay.
With
Ms.
our new
Parsons?
website, I believe that's already on there.
Oh, we're ahead of ourselves. It's the new website. It's gonna be all things to everybody, sort of thing. Anyways, well, I'd like to thank you for your time and your energies with respect to your acting position. It's good to see, and I know it's always a learning curve, I would assume. It's sometimes a good thing and sometimes not so much, but hopefully the town council, town administration can, if we can help you in any way, that you are, I think you're fairly forthcoming. I know there been lots of conversations already, so we hope to keep them up as well. And so thank you and good luck with I guess we're already in the second quarter, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have Mr. Mugford, who's going to talk about the utility rate bylaw for 2025.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. The issue before you is utility rate bylaw 2025, bylaw number 2161. So the issue is the proposed rates for utility service, so water, wastewater, and solid waste in 2025. The background, so the town of Peace River's goal for its water, wastewater, and solid waste funds are to be self-liquidating. To assist in reaching this goal, the town initiated a cost of service model review in 2023 that will determine appropriate rates to fund current operation costs and anticipated future capital expenditures. This model was completed in the spring of 2024 and presented to council through workshop in July. The workshop presentation, which details the findings is attached to this report. In summary, the model computes that the town has and continues to significantly undercollect both water and wastewater revenue. The recommendation from the reports are as follows. Number one, to target full cost recovery, so operating capital for water and sewer utilities. The current cost recovery levels do not meet the town's needs to provide safe and reliable service to its residents. It is recommended that utilities target full cost recovery in the medium to long term in the interest of rate impact mitigation. Intergroup, which is the company that we contracted to provide this analysis, recommends targeting full cost recovery for water and sewer utilities by 2029. These recommendations require the following average annual rate adjustments by utility from 2025 through 2029. So annually, they are recommending a 9.7% increase to water and a 10.1% increase to sewer and wastewater. Item 2, introduce a mid-tier customer category to the water and sewer customer classes. So the current bylaw classifies the town's customers into residential and small and large commercial categories. Due to a wide gap in rates between the small and large commercial class on fixed charge, an increasing proportion of customers in the large category were opting to reduce their meter size to fit the small commercial rates, thereby resulting in lower revenue generation for the utilities. To avoid continuous decline of revenue, it's recommended that a separate medium tier customer category be created and rates adjusted accordingly. So comments from administration on this. The medium commercial, basically, the rates recommended creation of 2 medium tier or medium commercial classes. So medium commercial 1 would include all customers on 1 1/4 and 1 1/2 inch meters. So formally, they were lumped in with the small commercial category. There are 59 accounts, which would, under this new system, be classified as a medium commercial 1. There'd also be creation of medium commercial 2, which would include all the 2-inch meters. And formally, they were large commercial. So there are 58 accounts, which would be classified as medium commercial 2. So this change smooths out the jumps in fixed charges between classes and more equitably aligns with the costs of providing these services. Additionally, moving forward, water rates and wastewater storm water rates will be split, further supporting the cost recovery model where differing services fund themselves. So I included in the report an example of what a typical medium commercial 1 versus medium commercial 2 customers' charges would be, comparing the old rates in 2024 to what the proposed new rates would be for 2025. For the medium commercial 1, it's a significant jump from based on 50 cubic meters per month of consumption, jumping from $456.40 to $668.68, so an increase of $212.28 a month. However, the medium commercial 2 customers, using the same comparison, would see a reduction of $201.78 per month. So it's just the way that it worked out that there's 59 customers that would be moving up in meter or up in classification, and 58 that moves down. Obviously, the customers in medium commercial 1 won't be happy about that, and the customers in medium commercial 2 will be, because they'll result in the savings. But again, these are the recommendations from the analysis that were supported by the costs of providing those services. Moving on, recommendation number 3 was to adopt an overhead cost allocation method. So there's a few steps involved: identifying the overhead cost pool and allocating those costs to the utilities based on the share of the total costs to be allocated. And recommendation number 4 is to establish capital maintenance and reserve contributions through the utility rates. So in general, in the past, we were collecting enough funds through our utility revenue to cover our ongoing operating costs, but we were not collecting enough to fund any reserves or to fully cover our future capital replacement needs. So as I'm saying, this is in the past, the costs that were not fully reflected in rates. Prior decision-making regarding revenue requirements was guided by those operating costs. And so there has not been sufficient reserves established to offset major capital replacement needs in the future. Included in the report, just again, examples of what the changes would be to a residential customer. So a residential customer paying for 15 cubes a month is looking at a $13.70 increase, or 7.7%. I'll note that inclusive in that is a $1.50 per month increase to the garbage and recycling charge. I'll discuss that later. And the small commercial customers consuming 36 cubes, they're looking at a $9.67 increase per month, or approximately 2.6%. Large commercial is looking at, based on 400 cubic meter consumption, $341, or 10.7% increase. So again, the 9.7 number that I mentioned earlier, that's an average, that's a blended number of all of these different classes. Some have higher percentage increases, some have lower. So arguably the most financially prudent thing to do from the perspective of the municipality would be to move all customers to full cost recovery immediately. However, the impact on ratepayers was thought to be far too abrupt, as it requires an approximate 50% increase on rates to get us to that point. As such, a phased approach over the next 5 years is recommended to ensure that by 2029, utility funds are self-liquidating and collecting sufficient revenue to fund both operations and capital requirements. There are many assumptions built into the model, which as time proceeds will be adjusted to better reflect current data. Those assumptions include inflation, sales growth, future capital requirements, anticipated government contributions for capital, etc. As time progresses, the model allows for updates with the most current year data, which will further clarify required rates. As such, it's anticipated that the utility rates will continue to be brought forward to council on an annual basis for review and update. So in some jurisdictions, they'll propose to council, here's what the rates are going to be for the next few years. We could propose that through a bylaw, through our bylaw. However, given that this model is new this year, we thought it'd be better to allow the rates to go forward for 1 year, with the knowledge being out there that we're going to be anticipating similar rates in the future to bring us to full cost recovery by 2029. While also having additional data that we can feed back into the model and clarify what those future rate increases will be. Moving to solid waste. So the town's solid waste and recycling service contract expires in June of 2025. The prior agreement was from 2020. So the full impact of this change is unknown. We'll be going up for a proposal for that service. Administration is anticipating the cost of services will increase. Council has indicated that they prefer that the town continue to have both the spring and fall cleanup services, as well as the expansion of the yard waste bin service, with those additional bins located at the Eco Center. So as such, at this time, administration is recommending an increase of the monthly fee from $26 to $27.50. The options before council this evening are option 1, that council provide first reading of bylaw 2161 utility rates for 2025 as presented. Advantages include the proposed utility rate increases aligned with our goal of reaching full cost recovery model, while recognizing potential financial burdens experienced by our customers due to the current inflationary impacts and economic uncertainties for 2025. The disadvantages are increased cost to utility customers, and the financial implications is this will move us towards full cost recovery. Option 2 is council decline to provide first reading to bylaw 2161. There's no advantages. The disadvantages would be rates would remain the status quo and would not align with our goal of cost recovery. Financial implications: should council decline to raise rates, the monies collected would remain approximately the same as in 2024. And option 3 would be for council to provide first reading bylaw 2161 utility rates 2025 as amended. So the recommendation from administration is that council provide first reading of 2161 utility rates for 2025 as presented. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
So, I think we've had a workshop on the utility, model review. So it was quite detailed, and as everyone can see, lots of detail seems to be the way this, particular topic goes. My one question though, I got mixed up between medium commercial, which was the 1.25 to 1.5 versus, small commercial. Is small commercial and medium commercial the same thing?
They're not. So
Okay,
small commercial would be meter sizes under 1 1/4 inch. If subject to check, I think there's only one customer that has the 1 1/4.
okay.
The majority are in the 1.5 meter size.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. So the rates going up would have to go up in order to realize a, well, a hope for 2029, self-contained utility department costs recovery.
Correct. So our model, the model developed by Intergroup shows that a 9.7% increase per year for the next 5 years would get us to a full cost recovery point by 2020. For water, wastewater is 10.1%.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's a lot, but if the philosophy is, then it's a hard decision that that is the best way forward for the town finances in particular. Because if certain things don't come out of the utility rate model, certain things then just go over to the tax side of things.
Correct. The options are either to fund those costs through general taxation, which is something that in principle we've been shifting away from. The concept is that each one of these funds should be self-liquidating, should be able to provide for its own operating and capital replacement costs. Beyond doing that, the options would be to fund items out of reserves, which isn't really an option for these funds. The reserves are fairly limited. So again, the model is recommending building up dedicated reserves and also building up funds for capital replacement. I'll point out that as we further develop what our capital, future capital spend will be, we'll rely less heavily on what our the current assets that we have. So basically, the model looks at the infrastructure that we have in the ground, and they scale that up to reflect what the future costs of that replacing those assets will be, because in general, pipe or an asset that you put in the ground 25 years ago is going to cost significantly more in today's dollars to replace. So the model relies very heavily on that information, but as we further refine our capital plan, then we'll be using more precise figures. So again, there's a lot of uncertainty. Another variable that I mentioned, how much funding we get from the government. So the sensitivity on whether that's getting 40 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar, 60 cents, depending on how much funding comes in, that will have a huge impact on how much we need to collect from our ratepayers. By not doing this, the municipality runs a significant risk that if we do need to spend money unexpectedly, you're in a position that you're more dependent on going out for debt financing, which depending on the economic circumstances at the time, you could be borrowing at higher rates than would be ideal.
So that was one of my questions, that there is an assumption in here that for the major capital projects that we would get 50% grants from elsewhere.
I'd have to check the exact number that was used, but we used an average rate for how much money we anticipated to get from third parties. You know, there's some projects that the costs associated with the replacement, like we almost need to have some type of access to provincial and federal funding to be able to get that work done.
Okay, councillors, questions, Councillor Boychuk?
I have a couple questions around the examples that you're using with our actual data. How close are these examples to what's really going on in the community? So for example, you're saying average user uses, you use 15 cubes. Is that actually what our average is in our community, or are we just using numbers at that? Because I'm just kind of looking like if we're actually using 30 cubes, then it's going to be a $30 a month difference versus $14 you're using in the example. So I'm just curious of how close your examples are to what the average consumption in Peace River is.
For a couple of these, I used similar volumes to previous year. For the residential, we checked that number. So 15 is a fairly typical residential household. For the larger volume, I looked at a sampling of our large volume consumers, because they vary quite a bit, but they're obviously as large volume, they're consuming quite a bit more. But yeah, again, the change, and this is one of the items when go back in time a couple of years when the model when council approved the model to move from a variable-based model to one that had a fixed element. At that point, there was a decision by council to not fully implement that change, which would, if that change had been fully done, you would have seen a lower variable charge and a much higher fixed charge. So this model is, I would say, still holding to that spirit. Again, arguably, case could be made that the fixed charges for all classes should be higher and the variable charges should be lower. But again, we try to keep in line with what council previously decided in terms of only implementing, not going all the way in that.
And I think one of the reasons for that train of thought was if there is at least a little bit of choice, you can vary your water usage sometimes. A little bit. Councillor Ford.
I kind of find the conversation very ironic, because guess who just got their water bill emailed to them where their utilities go. So
How many cubes?
excuse me, so to further your question, back in the day, my water bill used to be under $50 because I didn't use a whole bunch of water, but now I'm paying that fixed rate. I'm paying my fair share for the infrastructure, trying to help keep the infrastructure up, et cetera, et cetera. So I just did, because that bill just came in, I just did the math from my bill right here to the new 2025 rate, and it's bang on. I find it, like with the amount of water that I use, the numbers are bang on.
What do you mean by bang on? Like his prediction is bang on, or?
Like as far as the usage goes, so my usage was X amount of cubes. And if I take that same bill and apply it to the new rate, based on the amount of cubes that I used. Whether it's.
So your bill went up a little bit?
It's going up a little bit,
Like 10%.
not even.
More like 9.7.
Oh, you're going up. Thanks, guys. Good.
$4.50.
Rounding is for idiots.
Depends on the situation.
$4.50 a month for me.
Mr. Mudford, look like you're gonna comment, no? No, you're just getting ready.
Just that, it's actually 7.7. But over the past 2 years, what we've been doing is 5% across the board. And this model brings us back to, rather than just flat increases for everyone, it's, as I say, some are higher. If you're in the small commercial class, it's only a 2.6% increase. So it really is, and again, I haven't discussed it all at this point, but in the presentation, in one of the slides talks about our cost recovery. Just one second, I'll get the page reference for you. Because one of the analysis that was done by Intergroup is looking at each one of our customer classes to make sure that. Shoot, I don't have the page number on here, but it's the slide that, it speaks to the, on the slide deck, it's page number 33. And so it shows if we were to do nothing with our rates, where we would be at in the future. And so in terms of the RCC ratio is basically what you're recovering on your costs per class. So our small commercial customers, they're likely to see very small increases over the next 5 years because we're already collecting a very high ratio on them compared with the rest of our customers where we're not. And that's something that it's again, it's just inconsistent with what we've done the past 2 years because we didn't have this data. So we were putting in increases just because we knew inflation was a thing and we wanted to continue to move in the direction of cost recovery. But you're not going to see the same increases for all customer classes over the next 5 years as we implement this model.
Deputy Mayor? 2029 is the target for cost recovery?
If council was to proceed with the recommendations from this analysis, it would be 2029. Again, that's subject to us providing new information each year, which they may move that number, the percentage increases up or down. Council, again, has the option of extending that out. There's a discussion of if you were to implement this change over a longer period of time, it would lessen the impact. However, it does allow that deficit to last for a longer period of time.
Any other questions?
Does the model account for the lag in getting there to make up for, like,
It's an impact. It's a relatively slight impact, but it's an impact nonetheless, yeah.
Councilor Boychuk?
I'm just curious in the differences that happens to our blue bags versus one, if I take it up to the eco center and throw it in the bin there versus curbside pickup.
In terms of the cost or?
Just generally what happens to the one bag versus the other, because they're not both going to the same place, are they not?
I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer that. I don't have that answer specifically.
Okay, I'm just under the assumption that our blue bags get hauled to Grand Prairie, right?
Not sure if it's Grand Prairie or Edmonton,
I think so.
elsewhere.
I believe it's
think.
like that.
They used to
South
dump
of
here,
Fire,
bail them
it's
and then
going
ship them home.
Even south.
Yeah.
Then truck them elsewhere. The EPR thing is also something that will come into waste management next year and I don't know how. We don't fully understand that.
What is happening to you?
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, any further questions on the utility rate model? Analysis or whatever?
Actually.
Councilor Carr?
So looking at these charts that you have here, showing the comparisons to comparable communities, we will be the highest on that chart by a fair margin. Is that correct? Or I guess that's based on their numbers of today. They may also have increases. So I guess based on your charts, we will be the highest of all those municipalities. Is that correct?
Depends which category.
Yeah, so again, this is analysis that was done by Intergroup. So this isn't administration's figures, but it will, as Madam Mayor said, it will vary depending on the category. So we're showing on each slide, Peace River proposed rates for 2024 and our actual rates. In most instances, there'll be an increase, with the exception of medium commercial 2. Those customers will have a slight decrease because they'll be moving from the large commercial fixed charge, so that'll result in savings for them. Medium commercial one obviously has the biggest increase because their fixed charge is going up, more significantly. But in terms of the comparables, yeah, you have to normalize it for, this slide includes kind of your taxes number, your treated water, and your sanitary. So it varies by community, but we'd certainly be on the higher end.
What makes sense would be on the higher end, we have the most amount of infrastructure per citizen because we're long, we're in the valley, we have more lift stations, we have like, there's no, if every community were to follow this exact model, what community would legitimately have, like, Hinton maybe? Like, what would have more geographical challenges than us to overcome? And also, given the age of our infrastructure, we have a reservoir 363 needs to be replaced. We have a wastewater treatment plant that needs to be replaced.
Yeah, I mean, Peace River definitely has challenges that other flatter communities don't have.
Okay, any further questions? Discussion? Would someone be prepared to put forth a motion? Councilor Ford?
Yes, I put a motion on the floor, your worship, that council provide first reading to bylaw number 2161 utility rates for 2025 as presented.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got the motion for first reading. Everybody's clear on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Lots of work there in the background, on the foreground too, actually. Unfinished business, we do not have any. However, new business, Ms. Parsons is going to talk to us about non-standard crosswalk painting policy.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Presenting on behalf of Director Fisher. Not many changes made to the non-standard crosswalk policy since you saw the policy at the GNP a couple of weeks ago. You can see the two changes that were made in red line. I know there was some discussion about maybe an appeal or some way of dealing with duplicate requests for the same location. And we contemplated adding a clause about that, but then we thought maybe we're just overcomplicating this a little bit. And let's roll out the program. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how many requests we get. And go from there. And if we start to run into significant issues, we can relook at it at the time. But right now we're feeling fairly optimistic that any issues that we do run into, we're hoping to be able to just talk through with any applicants. Don't anticipate too many people being unreasonable about the locations or not understanding to, one being in a certain location over another. 7.4 allows administration to work with the applicant to find a suitable location if the primary location is unavailable or deemed unsuitable. So I think we can just work with the applicants through the application process. And if we're finding that to be an issue and that's not working, we can bring the policy back for reconsideration and to add some clarifying in there. But for now, we thought, let's roll the program out, see how it goes. Other than that, open to questions.
So thank you. So reading the policy, if someone applies in, I don't know, April and they start the work in May, it's the May date that counts 1 year forward. So
That's correct.
nobody else would be able to step into that crosswalk and paint it before the following May, if there was a situation. Okay, thanks. Deputy Mayor?
So just to clarify, when you said you left that clause out, which I agree, probably a good move. So, but it's first come, first served. So if I came and I said, I want that sidewalk. And even if it was someone else's last year, if they didn't ask for it, that would be, because that's the only question. And I think you covered it in that, what I've read, I think it's covered in.
I agree, so, if there was a crosswalk location that was already taken and then the next year someone put in an application, for that same location, I think that would be a conversation that administration would have with that applicant. Do you know this crosswalk is already painted and, is there a reason that you want this one or could we work with you to have it over here? So we can work with the applicants. Maybe the other applicant from the year previous isn't planning to reapply, so no problem, we can, they can have the location, or maybe it is a primary location, so then we do talk to them, okay, let's do some rotation here, or how would you fairly administer this? But we're not foreseeing too many issues, and if we think we'll be able to work with people to.
I'm really excited about this one. Good job on it. Thank
It
you.
should be fun, yeah, get Director Fisher.
Any other questions, Councillor Ford?
First of all, I have to apologize because I was not at the GMP. I was at home sick. So just in the related documents, on page 1 of 4, it talks about Alberta Highway and Pavement Marking Guide, the Traffic Safety Act, et cetera, et cetera. So I do understand, like going along secondary highway, so in other words, Main Street, you can't paint parallel and you can't paint across. What about, I'm sure somebody probably asked this question, but what about, let's say 98th Street, we have the 2 or 3 major crosswalks on a very busy street that go for schools. You got those very big, bright sidewalk or crosswalks in front of Springfield and TA North. How does this apply to those school crosswalks in a busy intersection? Is it allowed or is it not allowed?
I would think it would be not allowed.
I would. Sorry, my guess would be at a school crosswalk, it wouldn't be allowed. I would have to look at the traffic data though.
And the reason why I asked that is prior to the GMP, when we had initial discussion, there was some talk about, somebody had mentioned that there would be allowed to be painting on a school crosswalk just as long as it was in between the white bars of the crosswalk. So that's why the question, is it or is it not allowed in a school zone or a school crosswalk?
I'm going to go with maybe. We would have to look into it further to see, and Director Fisher might be able to answer that off the top of his head, I don't know, but we would have to look at some of these related documents to see if there was anything that precluded them from doing that. And then whoever receives the application, the director and his team would have to review it and just analyze it on that basis. And then is the road too busy? Maybe it is causing too much wear and tear, or maybe it's too dangerous to have it there, or just or maybe not allowed by the acts. But if it's not allowed under any of the acts, and we don't have any concerns with it, then I don't see why it wouldn't be allowed. But they definitely
Just my
have to look at
personal
it.
opinion when it
Yeah.
comes to the school crosswalks and those busy intersections that the students already use. I would like, myself personally, I'd like to see that exempt
Mhm.
and those crosswalks not be allowed. Just for safety reasons.
Number 5 might address that other public safety concern.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Number 5, like I read that number 5 shows a judgment call, but I would like to see that in there, that school crosswalks are off limits.
The argument is that any painting makes any crosswalk slightly less safe. We should be doing none of them. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case, but that's kind of what you would play that logically out. So I would say probably just fine as is. Because if that does apply, then we shouldn't do them at all. But I think we should. Because I don't think it makes it less safe.
Any other? Ms. Miller?
Thank you. Just in general, the reading that I've done, statistically, it says painted sidewalk crossings, road crossings are far more visible than just white white line, so I think in some way we would find statistically, it would say, it would go against your argument. That it does create more awareness and more alertness. But I was just gonna, yeah, I got something here from Director Fisher, and he said most of the guidelines he looked at was concern around speed with adjacent roadways and adequate lighting and signage. The speed cutoff on most other policies was 50 kilometers an hour. So again, it was mostly around lighting and signage.
Then my understanding though, as well, is the white. Now, whether it's on a general crosswalk or a school crosswalk, or is on the white on a school crosswalk, is it not reflective compared to the paint that you would use in between the bars, which it would not be?
What I got after he said, the concern was speed and lighting. He said most of our roads are under that 50 kilometer an hour threshold. The crossings on River Road and the school areas are actually well signed. From a technical position, he wouldn't exclude them specifically. 98th is trickier, but there are some locations that it could be permitted as well. He would expect that those that are full zebra crossings though, so they will have less space available to do art in. Doesn't mean zero though. If that will make sense. So he has no concerns on all of his reading and research.
Any other comments on this one? Okay, well, at this point, we have the policy as written in front of us.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move that council adopt the non-standard crosswalk painting policy as presented.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Then we're clear on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Okay, it is carried. Thank you. Okay, next up, Mr. Musford again, setting reserve bids for properties set for tax auction.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So that issue is setting the reserve bids and sale terms and conditions for properties being offered for sale at public auction on November 28th, 2024. So pursuant to section 14 of the Municipal Government Act, municipality must offer for sale at public auction any lands shown on its tax arrear list. Section 419 of the MGA requires that council establish a reserve selling price and terms and conditions of sale before it can auction a property. To protect the parcel's owner's interests, the reserve bid must be set at a level that's as close as reasonably possible to the market value of the parcel. The proposed reserve bid amounts are based on 2024 assessed values the town's assessors has allocated after comparing the subject property to similar properties. A property is not sold at public auction. Section 424 of the MGA entitles the municipality to take possession by registering title in its name under the tax forfeiture if it chooses. The property would become exempt from future taxation once the title is transferred to the municipality. However, by taking title to the property, the municipality can dispose of it at any time in accordance with section 425 of the MGA. Following the tax auction, administration will seek direction from council regarding the assumption of title by way of tax forfeiture for any unsold parcels. Proposed terms and conditions of sale are a non-refundable 10% cash or cash equivalent deposit with the balance of the purchase price due 14 days after the auction date, as per the attached draft advertisement for the Alberta Gazette. Options before council. Option 1 is that council set a reserve bid for bid amounts for 2024 tax recovered auction properties at 2024 assessed values as indicated in the table below, and sets the terms and conditions of the sale as presented in the draft advertisement. The advantages would be that it allows the public auction to proceed. There's no disadvantages, and financial implications are if sold. It allows the municipality to pay the tax arrears and any other registered debts as legislated. If the property is not sold, the town has the option to take title. Option 2 would be that council provides direction on setting reserve bids and terms and conditions of the sale. So again, that would be just dependent on, advantages, disadvantages, financial implications would be dependent on council's direction. And so the recommendation is that council sets the reserve bids for parcels to be auctioned at the 2024 tax recovery sale at the 2024 assessed values as indicated in the table below, and sets the terms and conditions of the sale as presented in the draft advertisement attached here to forming part of these minutes. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you. So I have one question, and I frankly, I've looked at the addresses and make some suppositions, but I don't know. If you had a lot that, had a building on it, the building burnt, and either the remains are taken away or the remains are left, is the reserve bid based on that being an empty lot? Like nothing on it? Or is it the reserve bid based on when the building was there?
It would be based on the assessed values that our town's assessor has allocated to the
So
property.
at the present time, whatever state it's in? Yeah, okay.
They would, again, they would look at the properties in 2024, and that would be the basis of the assessment.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this matter? Is this about the same number as our usual tax auctions, or I don't remember one for a while, but
I'd have to check. I believe the last tax auction was in 2022. We didn't have one last year, so I'm not sure what the number was.
okay, so, and just if you could tell me a little bit more about an actual tax auction. So people submit their bids, then on the day they come someplace or somehow make the bid. Okay. Somebody's good. I just want the process. Like, what is the process?
Oh, your worship, so date and time is set, it's held in council chambers, and myself or a designate will act as the auctioneer. And we just declare the auctions open, we state the properties one at a time. We announce the reserve bid, then we open up for any bidding. And if nothing happens, we close that roll number and move to the next roll number.
And if somebody bids successfully, like what they
Yes.
have to,
So if somebody does meet the reserve bid, the minimum bid or above, then they have to meet the terms that are outlined. So I believe we have a 10% cash or cash equivalent to be paid immediately, and the balance on closing within 30 days. Then they do get that title property, clear title, with the exception of, I believe, anything that's owed to the crown stays on the title. And otherwise, if it doesn't get sold, as mentioned, we will come back and with a recommendation whether council would like us to take the property on tax forfeiture, and then from there we can actually list it with a realtor. Or if the property is being rented and we take tax forfeiture on it, we can start collecting the rents on the property. There are options after the sale for us to talk about.
thank you. Okay, any other questions on this matter? Would someone like to put forth a motion?
I'll move that council set the reserve bids for parcels to be auctioned at the 2024 tax recovery sale at 2024 assessed values as indicated in the below table, and set terms and conditions for the sales presented in the draft advertisement attached here to forming part of these minutes.
Okay, so the actual little chart there will go into the minutes as well. Okay, everybody clear on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Mumford. Okay, next up, we have Mr. Mumford again. 2025 ATCO electric franchise fee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So at issue is setting the 2025 ATCO electric franchise fee percentage to be charged by the town of Peace River. Again, this was brought forth for discussion at the prior meeting. The recommendation from administration is to leave the rate unchanged at 12.5%. So the options before council are to set it as, or increase it, decrease it, or leave it at the same level. Every 0.5% change in the franchise fee results in an increase or decrease of for approximately $44,500. So again, the recommendation from administration is to retain the prevailing ATCO electric franchise fee of 12.5% for 2025. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Any questions on this matter?
I've never been real clear on this. The franchise fee is what ATCO pays us to have their utilities here, and this is what we assess to our, on the electricity bills and so on.
This is, it's a line item on your actual electricity bill.
So it is added, assessed to the people that are paying the bill. Like 12% would be what we would make off what they use.
It's only on the consumption though. Is that correct?
I believe so. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. It says in the briefing note that it's based on the percent of distribution revenue.
Yep.
Distribution charges.
Well. Okay, so basically ATCO is paying the town in part to be in the town.
ATCO's not paying.
Well,
It's the residents.
yeah,
ATCO also pays property tax.
Yeah.
Sorry, ATCO also pays linear property tax. Yes.
yeah. Any further clarification, questions? Okay, somebody will prepare to put forth a motion. Deputy Mayor?
I move that council retain the prevailing ATCO electric franchise fee of 12.5% for 2025.
Thank you. Everyone's clear on the motion? Okay, all of those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Mugford. And next up, 2025 ATCO gas franchise fees.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So again, same issue except for gas. So in 23 and 2024, the rate used was 32%. It's only slightly beneath the maximum allowable under the Alberta Utilities Commission, which is 35%. A 1% increase or decrease in that rate amounts to a $25,600 change in revenue for the town based on the 2025 forecasted delivery tariff revenue. Again, the options before council are to increase the rate, decrease the rate, or to retain the existing rate. The recommendation from administration is to retain the prevailing ATCO gas franchise fee of 32% for 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? This briefing matter. Okay, so perhaps someone would put forward a motion on this matter.
Yes, your worship, I put a motion on the floor that council retain the prevailing ATCO gas franchise rate of 32% for 2025.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clear on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Mugford. Mr. Mugford again, on the non-union salary adjustment for cost of living.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So at issue is to determine the appropriate cost of living adjustment for the town's non-unionized employees. A bit of background, in the past, council has approved cost of living adjustments for non-union, the non-union pay grid to align with annual rate increases negotiated during the unionized staff's collective bargaining process. The percentages the percentage increases negotiated during the most recent collective bargaining are as follows. So in 2023, it was 2.4%. 2022, 2024 was 2%. 2025 was 1.75%, and 2026 it was 2.6%. Non-union employees received 2.4% in 2023 and 1.5% in 2024. Bring non-union employees in line with the unionized employees, increases in 2025 and 2026 would need to be 2.25% and 2.6% respectively. Though the process of matching union percentage increases in the non-union grid has been in place for several years, there is debate as to whether rates negotiated through this process are an appropriate benchmark for non-unionized employee COLA adjustments. During the bargaining process, unions will often negotiate for monetary items that non-unionized employees do not have access to. Some of these items can have a significant cost to the employer. It can also create the perception of potential bias from the managerial negotiating team. Many organizations have moved to utilizing an objective comparable factor, such as consumer price index, as a benchmark for setting increases for employees. This is done to ensure wages remain competitive within industry standards and to avoid decay over time. Town of Peace River has moved the council's remuneration to be tied to a similar metric as part of the council remuneration travel and expense policy. But council's honorarium shall be adjusted based on consumer price index. This will ensure council's pay remains in alignment with and does not fall behind industry standards. Inflation for 2024, I don't know what's going to end up at the end of the year, but it so far is trending towards 3%. Administration is drafting a policy which would include municipal best practices to formalize the process for which non-unionized employees' wages are adjusted in the future, to be brought forth for consideration in 2025. The options before council are option 1, that council approve increases to the non-union wage grid by 2.25% for 2025 and 2.6% for 2026. Advantages provides monetary increases to non-union staff in line with what was negotiated for union staff as part of the collective agreement bargaining process, enables administration to more accurately budget for the next and future year's salary and benefit cost increases to the organization, provides current and future staff with certainty in COLA increases for the next 2 years, enables payroll process to initiate our ROP changes effective first pay period of the year as opposed to subsequent approval, resulting in retro payment calculations. So if it's done later in the year, it's additional work on administration to calculate that retro pay. It also eliminates immediate wage decisions for 2026, having to be made by a new council post 2025 election and organizational meeting. Disadvantages include increased wage costs and also disadvantages. Those increases do not keep up with estimated inflation. Financial implications are the 2025 increase will result in approximately $102,000 in additional wages over our 2024 budgeted wages. Option 2 would be for council to approve an increase to the 2025 wage grid by an amount to be determined by council. And again, the advantages and disadvantages would be dependent on council's direction as with the financial implications. And option 3 would be again such other direction as provided by council. So the recommendation from the administration is that council approves increases to non-union wage grid by 2.25% for 2025 and 2.6% for 2026. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Councilors, questions? So the union staff did get the increases as stated there. And this is just asking for the non-unionized, which is about half or about a quarter of our town employees? Non-union, I'd say.
I think it's, I don't know.
I believe the non-union has a higher full-time equivalent count.
Okay.
There's a lot of our casual staff are unionized.
Okay, thank you. Counselors, any further questions? Counselor Ford?
Not a question, but I put a motion on the floor.
Lovely.
Not sure if I can be very popular with this, but, thank you, worship. I put a motion on the floor that council approve the increase to non-union wage grid by 2.25% for 2025 and 2.6% for 2026, excluding council remuneration. Staff get it, but we don't.
Council remuneration is covered under the council remuneration bylaw policy. I think it's,
I thought it said in here that it affects council remuneration.
No, it's tied to CPI.
Oh,
yeah, the council remuneration policy already states that it's tied to CPI. Yes, you're correct.
So what would your motion be?
I can reread this.
Friendly amendment.
Yeah, because in the briefing note, it says council remuneration is tied to a similar metric.
Yeah, just
Which means if we move the 2.5 to 2% for 2025 and 2026, council remuneration also increases by that, does it not?
No, the current policy for the remuneration was already adopted and it's in effect until after the election. And it is tied to CPI, and then the next remuneration policy is being evaluated by the committee of community members. And they'll be bringing forward recommendation for changes to council remuneration policy post-election.
I'll reword my motion then.
Probably.
The council approved the increase to non-union wage grid by 2.25% for 2025 and 2.6% for 2026.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Everybody's clear on the motion? Okay then, all those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Rutherford again. And Mr. Rutherford's carrying on with the new town hall preliminary renovation fund.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At issue is a request for preliminary renovation funds for new town hall building. So the town recently acquired a building which will become our new town hall. The building will require funds for renovation. The bulk of these funds will be requested through a capital project as part of the 2025 budget. However, to expedite that process, administration is requesting preliminary funding of $250,000 from the general capital reserve to complete architectural design, plumbing, commence work on the elevator and other preliminary renovations. In short, we want to get the ball rolling on this. And there were no funds included in the 2024 budget for this project. So the options before council are that council approve a preliminary draw of $250,000 from the general capital reserve to commence planning renovations of the future town hall building. Advantages are it allows for planning renovation to begin. Disadvantages are none, and the financial implication is a $250,000 reduction to the general capital reserve. Option two is that council decline to approve a preliminary draw of $250,000 from the general capital reserve. There's no advantages. Disadvantages are it will result in delays on renovation and potentially delay the transition from the old town hall building. The recommendation from administration is that council approve a preliminary draw of $250,000 from the general capital reserve to commence planning and renovations on the future town hall building. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion on the briefing note?
Just one question. Yeah, just one question. I know I've asked this before, but I'll ask again. So, if this funding is granted, which I'm assuming it would be, when it comes to the renovations, like I know some of the stuff in there has to be gone out for proposal or whatever, according to the MGA, but there's going to be other work that's renovations in the building that may be under a certain value. Will we be able to use local contractors for that work? And can it be tendered? Can smaller projects be tendered separately from the bigger projects so that the locals can compete?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. Rather than having a big general.
Yeah.
Yes, we will parse out what we can to make it available to locals.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? Would someone like to put forth a motion?
I'll move that council approve the preliminary draw of $250,000 from general capital reserve to commence planning and renovations on the future town hall building.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Mumford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mrs. Miller, resident satisfaction survey.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is just a briefing note to inform council that administration intends to release a resident satisfaction survey. In doing so, it will provide opportunity for residents to give us some feedback, let us know what they're satisfied with, what services they may not be satisfied with, where maybe they'd like us to concentrate a bit more on. So questions will include items such as how they feel about the town communications, which was a strategic priority. What avenues of communication they like to connect with, how they feel about our general service levels. Again, where they would like us to see an increase or reduction in service levels, and how things impact taxes. Doing a survey is common municipal practice, and this one will give us a baseline. It's our intention to continue to survey year after year from there. So hopefully we'll get some really useful information that we can bring back to council. And hopefully from there on, the information will just continue to be more valuable as we have a baseline. And then we'll have something to start measuring against in the future. And that's all I have to say.
So a resident satisfaction survey, does that mean people living in the town, doing business in the town, like how does it?
We're gonna have a check mark to say, are you a resident? Are you a business? Our intention hopefully will be, if they say they're not a resident, we're just gonna thank them for their interest in participating. Because we really do want to capture our residents and our business owners. Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions on this one? Councilor Carr?
How will that be sent out? Will that be in the water bills, or will that be on social media, or how would you advertise that?
I believe that we'll probably put it on social media. It's gonna be a poll or a survey online for people to go online for. And then, Stuart, I'm sure, has an amazing communication plan to push it out and gain some interest in it.
But those that do get emails about water bills, it could be another little comment section on that probably, or could be. I realize it doesn't cover everybody, but it's at least, yeah. Okay. Any other questions on this one? Is it like a 10-question thing, or is it gonna be 50 questions detailed to the yin yang?
There are a number of questions, actually. We're just going through them right now to make sure that they're relative and,
Yeah.
if there's some that we're missing and want to chop this one because we prefer that. So, yeah, we will send a copy of just before it gets published so council can have an awareness, so we're not kind of caught blind when someone asks you a question about one of the questions.
Okay. Good. Any, Deputy Mayor?
Are there any incentives being provided for people to fill it out, like a prize at the end or anything like that? I've seen that happen before. I'm just curious.
Actually, I never thought about that, so we can entertain that absolutely to encourage participation.
And if the winner happens to not actually be a resident, because they just ticked the other box just because it was easy. I've never done that in a survey, by the way.
Okay, good to know. Any other questions on the survey matter? No. Okay, so would someone be prepared to put forth a motion on this one? Councillor Boychuk.
Sure. Second here. Just to accept this as information purpose? Yeah, I'll put forward a motion to accept this as for information purposes.
Thank you. So Councillor Wojciech is moving the council accept the resident satisfaction survey briefing note for information. Yep. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. It is carried. Okay, the next one up is Mayor Manzer's attendance at Northern Alberta Medical Program Seminar, and combination of the CAO and myself, I guess we'll speak to this one.
Medical.
Well, I would like to go to the medical one. I don't know about the medial, but anyways, the gist of it is that counselors and myself, we're all assigned a certain amount for our per diem days this year. And I apparently have run out of mine. So looking back, why did I run out of mine? Well, I went to a drought seminar, province suggested we all get to, and a few other things like that that happened this year that maybe weren't accounted for. So anyways, I have been asked if I would attend a gathering of invited representatives from our academic and community partners. This is speaking from U of A and the Polytech, to learn more about the Northern Alberta Medical Program, ask questions, and participate in a facilitated opportunity to help create a shared vision for the Northern Alberta Medical Program. So that's what I'd like to go to. It is in Grand Prairie. It is on October 24th.
So essentially, this administration called the required number of days within one.
Sort of, yeah.
Yes, and honestly, I should have brought the flood one forward. Sorry, it wasn't flood, it was drought. The request for the drought attendance in January was charged against discretionary budget allocation, and really, we should have brought forward a motion to have that one approved like this, because it was really your presence was requested at that drought one. It shouldn't have used your discretionary budget allocation. And then I would have been right back on.
Okay. Any questions? Councilor Ford?
Yeah, just from what you're reading there, your worship, this specific event is by invite only, or can anybody from council attend?
There are two sessions on October 23rd. This is a community open house that anyone can go to. October 24th, it says in black and underlined bold, this invitation is specifically for you and not open to general attendance, etc.
Does this kind of dovetail with your RHPAP?
Yes.
And other things, okay.
Okay, any further questions? Someone prepared to put forth a motion on this one?
I just have a quick question.
Hmm?
So if, just wondering if we're setting a precedent here that if we go over our required amount of allotted days, that we can come before council and get a motion to attend further things under this policy? That would be open for all of us to do.
Oh, yes.
That's what says in the policy.
Yeah.
This is not affecting budget though.
No. It's not everybody has. Sorry, so just for clarity, it is in the policy to state that we can bring forward requests for additional days, anybody. And no, it won't affect budget because not everybody has used their allocated number of days. So total council budget would be under budget for per diems.
And that's why I asked the question, as far as if it was specifically invited, because there might be a counselor out there that hasn't used their per diem that could attend.
It does mention that the delegate can go if the person invited cannot, they can send a delegate. It's right underneath the underline there.
Yes, it does say that. Wherever I want to go. I think it has lots to do with the healthcare committee that I've been on and various other things that have been happening in healthcare around here. Any other comments, questions though?
Mark, I've asked my question. My only concern is I was very careful I was like playing blockers with my days, trying not to go over because I wanted to avoid having to come back to council and ask for that. We were given 17 days or 15 days, whatever it was. So I missed out on a few things that I would like to tap into as well. One of them would have been RMA. If I would have, I didn't want to wait till the 11th hour and then go back tracking, so I made darn sure that I had everything covered when I got to that point, so I'm just kind of disappointed, because I don't feel comfortable coming back and asking. I think we had enough. If we're only over by one, I think that proves that we did have enough there. That's only my problem. I think, yeah, I would like to see it just stay as it is until the next remuneration thing comes out with our adjustable per diem days, and the discussion happen at that time. Thank you.
CAO Miller?
Just in case maybe you missed that little part of the conversation, there was an invitation that was received from the government in January to attend, a request to attend a drought session, and which the mayor attended because drought was of high concern back in January. And unfairly, that wasn't, in my opinion, a discretionary, oh, I think I'll decide to go to this session, given the heightened concern in the province for the drought condition and the situation. I personally feel that that should have been outside of a discretionary allocation. And so had I not charged that erroneously, in my opinion, against her discretionary budget, the mayor would have this day available to her to choose.
Then I understand that hindsight is 2020, but I mean, we're here now. That's
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, I seem to also recall discussion around, because FCM was in the west this year, and so it was a lot more reasonable for more of council to attend. And so that also made this year a little bit, I guess you would say, extra compared to other years where FCM is often in the east or the far east, where, you know, most times nobody, you know, from council attends. So that also would have, I guess, you know, have an impact on this year in particular compared to the average year.
No, because we budget separately for AM and
that's-
FCM,
my
yes,
apologies.
yeah.
Any further discussion?
I'm just gonna ask one question very bluntly. Is there anybody else on council that wants to go to this, that has per diem?
Would someone perhaps put forth a motion on this matter?
Yeah, I'll move that council approve a full day per diem for Mayor Manzo to attend the Northern Alberta Medical Program Planning Seminar on October 24th, 2024.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Boychuk.
Do you know if it's possible if one of us is able to accompany you without using our per diem?
It says, please note, we are limited with space for this part, and this invitation is specifically for you and not open to the general attendance and registration. If you're not able to attend, would like to send a delegate, then you please let us know. The 23rd, people can go and tour the facility, ask questions about the U of A MD program and the Northwest Polytech Health Sciences programs. No RSVP is required for the 23rd. Any further questions? Okay, we have a motion before us. Everybody's clear on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Okay. Do we want to break or carry? I suppose let's just carry on until closed. Reports, we've got council attendance reports. I have one up there. You can see that. I've decided that I'm going to start at least listing things like the Peace Waste Management Board meeting, because it's things that otherwise do not show up on any of our council expenses or our council reports. And yet we spend, you know, a good part of a day at these things. The Waste Management Board also sends, some of their directors to, conferences that are not seen by, these sorts of reports at all. So anyways, I did that. Any questions on my report there? Next one up, we have the governance and priorities, draft minutes. For information, perhaps someone could now put forth a motion that council accept reports 9-1 and 9-2 for information. Councillor Carr so moves. Okay, everyone's clear? All those in favor? It is carried, thank you. Okay, then we have, council communication package in specific, or specifically the one for September 6th. And council, and the public, there's, one that came out on September 13th as well. But anyways, September 6th, first incoming correspondence, the Chamber of Commerce, membership letter. It has various, items in there about the chamber. I was gonna ask though, we had seems to me that community services had a discussion somehow about tournament packages for, sports teams or something that comes to town. I remember at our grants to organizations, there was a discussion about that. Does anybody know where it went or?
The Tanya and Lane are working on that.
Okay, because the season is here. Okay, so be good if they can let us know if it's happening, because I think council would try to promote that a little bit too.
For example, our school is hosting a volleyball tournament with 30 teams approximately. Not this weekend, but the weekend after.
Yeah, so it can't wait until December to, if
Although
it's gonna be.
I also have one at the beginning of December for basketball too, so
Well,
I'll take one then if I have to.
mhm. Yeah, no, I think it's a good thing. It helps, business owners can help promote their businesses somehow through it. I don't know how it's gonna work, but, I've seen it happen in other towns when people have gone to tournaments, they sort of get that. I would advise, people to look at the September 13th communication package and, have a good look at the first item, which is the 2024 Northern Alberta Development Council, NADC, What We Heard report. So it, is their summary of their findings from, the engagements they had with various, counselors and other people, this fall or this spring, I guess it was, and, what their conclusions are. So any other items someone wants to bring up on either communication? Sorry.
Yeah, I think, we should really take the opportunity and highlight the chamber's, job fair, registration, for in the mall on September 25th.
You,
At the mall, I should say.
any other items that, were on the communication packages yet? So maybe somebody could accept the communication package for, information?
I think that.
Here.
Move the council accept, items for information.
Okay, item 1, 10-1 it is.
Yeah.
10-1 for information, great. Okay, all of those in favor of that motion? It is carried. Okay, we notice a motion, none comments from the public. He's trying to ignore the question maybe. Key communication items. Okay, so Mr. Ford, you have one that probably fits here.
Yes, thank you.
So the golf tournament is what you want on this one, or?
No, it was the, job fair that the chamber is putting on, the 25th at River Drive Mall.
Great. I think the curbside, pickup is happening this week. I note that, some people were driving around this weekend and, getting quality items that they could rehome.
Some that were theirs.
So.
Well,
You want a dishwasher?
only if it works. Any other, things we would like to highlight at this point in time? We've had all sorts of, the utility rate bylaw, first reading of that one. The ATCO, franchise fees. Any others?
Apex.
Apex presentation,
Sidewalk.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
the the non-standard sidewalk painting,
Sidewalk crossing.
sidewalk crossing. There we go.
People would know because of school.
Okay, Mr. Board, we've all voted no because of things, so you cannot carry on. Okay, so we've got our communication items, we think, sorted there. So how about we take a little bit of a break, 5 minutes, and we'll come back to closed session. That brings us back at 7:45.
Thanks, guys.